are back with Steve, all the way from Kenya. So thank you once again so much for joining Grant and I for this conversation. Like I mentioned before, Josh is in the background, so we can't see him, but Josh is here. And so good morning to you, Steve, and good evening to you, Grant, once again. So, yeah.
Habari zenu.
Habari.
Yeah. That means, how are you? Well, yeah, how are you?
I'm good.
Translated.
I'm good. How are you, Steve?
I'm good too.
Happy
to be
I like
back.
the sweatshirt you have on. I like the sweatshirt.
Yeah, give us a twirl or something. Show us what you're wearing.
Yeah, what's the outfit? Give us a twirl.
It's early morning here, so you can be sure I just get out of bed, so you don't know what I'm wearing. But it's cold here, so I am basically in my gloves.
Oh wow!
It's cold. Yeah.
I didn't see the gloves either till now. Wow. Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Okay, Grant, what are you wearing? Give us a twirl.
Well, y'all caught me today. I just left the shift at my work, and my work I have to wear business professional. So I have this classic blue shirt and a tie I got from Goodwill. And so I'm trying to be professional, and also, I don't know, I want to show everyone else up at work, or at least all the men. The men, I can't compete with the women. They've got too much like opportunities for fashion choices.
Yeah, they got the hair, they got the nails, they got everything. But
yeah,
you can.
I just got to pick a really good tie.
Yeah, the men. You can outdo all the men. You can outdo all the men in outfits.
Yeah.
So.
And Henry, what about you?
Yeah.
I'm just wearing a simple. I think this was my V-Voice shirt last year before I spoke on the live stream. So I bought this right before V-Voice last year. So I'm just wearing a little cute number for the girls, something for the kids, something cute that I could just twirl in. So yeah,
absolutely.
Twirl. I am live in my house.
Awesome.
I'm not going to tell the people what I was doing before this. I was asleep on the couch before this. So Grant popped up on the camera in his outfit. I said, "Oh no, I'm going to change." So I grabbed something. Yes.
Well,
but yeah,
Steve.
Yeah.
In our last conversation, we touched a little bit on what community looks like for you when it comes to your seminary, but we're kind of wondering what other kinds of community look like for you, like family and church. So, what does that look like for you right now in this moment in your life?
I live in Nairobi currently,
okay,
which is far from home.
Oh, okay.
Now that I'm here because I'm a student in the church that I'm fellowship in at the moment. Partly know my story. I have shared with my pastor. I think all my pastors have heard about it. It's a Pentecostal church.
Okay.
Pentecostals here have a tendency of not being, well, in the general conversations on sexuality, they are not very open-minded. But our church, even the fact that they know my story a little, I would say they have welcomed me.
Okay.
Which is I have talked with friends who are like, "So your pastor know your story?" I'm like, "Yeah, we partly do." And it's like, "And you're still serving at church?" Because I serve with young adults. I am involved in many things at church. So many wonder how because some of my friends tell me if the pastors knew the story, then they will not accept them to serve. So thankfully that's happening at the moment, which is really a blessing for me because I don't know, I'm not sure if my church rejected me, where I would go next, because I exist for the church. I want to serve as a local church pastor someday. So thankfully that's happening. But the general church like last week, one of our Pentecostal churches, not one of our branch, but one of our Pentecostal churches, was having a discussion on same-sex attraction versus homosexuality, which is a really good one. I was like, oh, okay, it's a big church, it has a good influence. So I was like, oh, and then they invited, there's this pastor from, I can't remember the country, but it's called Johnson or something.
Okay.
Greg?
Yeah, he is Mopside white.
Okay.
Which is not bad, especially from the church that had invited him. Because by the way, when the church put the poster, same-sex attraction versus homosexuality, there was a lot of backlash. People were like, "Why are you having gray areas? This is a sin. There's nothing like this and this and this."
Really?
And but the very fact, so I remember going to the page. The church is called CITAM online. I went to the church and I was there trying to respond to a few questions.
What was the church called?
What
was the church called?
CITAM Church Online. CITAM, CITAM.
We can edit the specific name of the church out if you would like.
Oh, no, I'll Google it.
You can go check the name of the person who.
Yeah, CITAM Church Online. Ooh, they got a Twitter account and everything. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, oh my gosh. CITAM.org, okay.
You should have seen the reaction of people, like, these are people who are sinners and stuff. So I when you look at that environment, generally, it looks very toxic at times when I personally have to keep on, anytime I send something on sexuality, like on Facebook, I have to keep on explaining how I don't mean this, I also mean this. So the church as a community, thankfully for me, my church has heard my story a little. I'm not saying they are really willing to embrace my whole story, but at least they know this is what my church knows. They know I struggle with this thing, and they know that I am committed to pursuing Christ. So they are okay with that. They are not okay with any other label that I may bring. They may not be so much okay with me talking about it. Like one day at church, I'm like, "Hey guys, they may not be okay with that." But so far, I'm at least at peace that they have given me a platform, that I am a mentor to many.
Yeah.
And that has given me a platform. Also, I remember the other time in church when a 13-year-old girl, we were just talking about needs within the society and how God is calling us into them. And I spoke about how I feel God is calling me into the whole engagement on faith and sexuality, especially LGBT. And after the talk, the young girl came and she's 13, I think 13, 14. She's like, "Hi Steve, I heard you talk about sexuality. Now I am bisexual."
Oh, wow.
Okay. And then she goes ahead to talk about so many other things, which when I was 13-year-old, I never had an idea what that thing was.
Yeah.
And we had a discussion and almost for an hour. And she's at a place of, she tells me, and she's so informed. She's 13 years old. She knows it's Pride Month. She has been telling her mom about that another person who came out. And the mother is like, "This will go to hell." And she's like, "Steve, my mom is so homophobic. I don't know how to approach her."
Yeah.
And she's like, "No, Steve, also there's this girl in my class. At times I find myself just staring at her." She says so many things, and I'm there. one, thank you, God, that I'm in that space, and praying that I can engage with her well. But also looking at her mom, who is really committed in church and willing to serve God, and wondering how things will turn out for both of them in the future, especially as far as just pray that the mom will not push this girl out of the faith simply because of the girl was like, for me, Steve, I don't even like wearing how these other girls wear. She's like, I think I must study. She's like, me, I love wearing these clothes and stuff, and I am there hoping the mother who represent the church in the young girl's life will act in the So that's how the Kenyan church community looks like. There are those that are willing to engage. In fact, this Friday, there's a church which they have a podcast, and they have invited me together with another pastor whom I'm not sure whether I want to go in that podcast with, specifically because of
tell us.
being hurt. But I part of me want to take the opportunity, specifically because I believe it could be the first time someone will be hearing a live sharing on Christian, someone who is experiencing same-sex attractions and Christian. But also I have listened to the pastor before and I've been hurt by some of his comments. So the church is a way it's trying to open up the discussion, but then many of them, especially those that feel they are gospel centered or Bible centered, don't feel like they are trying to put on gray areas. So it looks like that.
I'm so interested in what you just said about the podcast you might be going on, or the church, the conversation with the pastor. Because Grant and I both had a similar look on our faces as you said that. I know, girl, and so, but you're willing to still engage in those spaces and those conversations. I find that so commendable, Steve. And could you maybe even tell us why that is? Because, like you said, they're putting on voices like yours who other people may not know. So, do you say that for you is the trade-off worth it? Like, other people at least get to hear you speak, even though you've been hurt by this pastor or this church before? Because for me, it's like, I ain't coming on. You ain't going to bring me on to nothing. But that's me.
In some way, I am, like the one that I mentioned about sit-down. I wasn't the speaker. I was just a member. In fact, I came in late for the discussion. And I was there trying, if someone would say something, I would go to their comments and try, to respond before the one responds. And immediately after that session, I got these 3 people texted me. And I want you to hear, and these are some of the reasons why I think I would want to go there. Let me read it. So I wasn't the speaker, I was just there trying to be compassionate towards this person who I can relate with. Immediately after, I found one person told me, "Hello Steve, I followed your FB page. Sorry for stalking, and you're the right person to share this. I'm born again, Christian, but struggling with same-sex attraction. You seem to be someone who can assist a Christian who wants to live this." To me, that's enough. I may not do I'm not sure what I may do towards this, but just hearing that. And then immediately after, someone else told me, "Hi bro, I'm a Christian and struggling with homosexuality. Any help in the ministry, please?" I was like, but I'm like, I can offer myself. And then the third person, "Good morning, sir. I saw your comments on a post at Satan. I'm interested in your blog because I'm really confused about my sexuality."
Wow.
And so seeing all these, where I had not even shared my story, I just responded to a few questions here and there, to me was worth it. So I'm just hoping, I had wanted us to do a Zoom hangout before the meeting, because I wanted us to really even talk with the pastor and make him understand that I'm born again. I'm a Bible believer. I'm a theological school. Like, maybe we discuss about everything else except sexuality at first for him to understand that I'm very sober and sound in my doctrine. And then sort of when we go to sexuality and we don't agree, it doesn't have to come with, with gas blazed towards me. So I am willing. I'm really hoping I don't get hurt, because the day I've heard him talk before and I felt hurt. So I'm just hoping. Then the host is someone I can trust in some way. Because I've told him I have been I've had this person before and I fear I may be hurt. So I want to bank on the host also, on the questions they'll ask. So I want to really prepare them, tell them I'm not talking this theoretically. This has a big impact on me. And so if the person talking will not be sensitive or not he want to say, I may back off even when the episode is continuing. But I want to see how much I can push this, and also psych myself for the day and see how much am I willing to be hurt for that young man, that young lady who may. Because one of the reasons why I shared my story public, I wanted to give hope to one more person who would have wanted to lose their faith simply because of their sexuality story. And my prayer is no one has to know that. We need to know that God accepts us all, and we can experience Him at the place where we are at, no matter how that looks like. And I want them to know that I have models, because I have struggled. Why I follow Life Outside B, why I follow Real Voice. Well, I'll be up in theology in the raw to listen to what is his name? The pastor from
Greg Johnson.
Memorial.
Greg Johnson, yes, I do.
Yes, I'll be there listening to him and wanting to read the whole episode, because he's the. I want to be a pastor someday. I want to lead a church. I want to.
Not in the piece.
I have models, but they are very far away. I long to have people see a model in me. When they are trying to look at how their future may look like, they may realize if God has called you to be a Christian, to be a minister, you don't have to let it go simply because of the sexuality story. I'm willing to do it.
Yes. Wow. And in case y'all didn't catch that earlier, he said sober-minded and alert. Steve was giving y'all 1 Peter 5. Be sober-minded and alert, y'all. So, love that.
I love that you have been able to connect with people just by mentioning this conversation, this topic. You have people coming to you to talk. Like, the fields are ripe for harvest. Like, people really are hungering for someone like you, who has your story and who loves Jesus. I think that's such a precious spot to be in, where you just mention the topic and you have 3 people who come to you immediately and say, I need help.
I went to church. I mentioned that I talk about this. The place I never expect someone to say something, and immediately after someone is like, hey. As you see, the fields are right. Yeah. It's true.
Do you think,
it's true.
I guess related to that idea, do you think that is true for most of your country, like for most of Kenya? Do you think that's where they're at? Like, I think many decades ago in the US, we've sort of had a very public conversation about sexuality for a very long time. And in the church, it's been several decades at least, even more than that. So we might almost be tired of the conversation sometimes, but I know I can sometimes be. But yeah, do you think like where Kenya is right now is like people are really hungering for this conversation? Where do you think like your context is and the process. Like, what does the conversation look like?
The last before okay, I haven't done my story very well, but the last 3 years when I've been more around, especially on social media, I think that at first the church was closed from the conversation. They never wanted to talk about it. But the last 3 years or 4 years, there has been a lot of discussions. And specifically last year and this year, there seem to be a lot of discussions about it. The last 2 weeks, I have encountered a student ministry organization doing an apologetic session on LGBT. What was the other one? And I think evangelism and something. But that was one of the discussion. I told you that this Friday I'll be going for podcast where they discuss about LGBT. On Saturday or Friday, there was a church I told you about which was discussing that. So there is, and I can count the last 2 months I've had this discussion. Almost, there are many people who are willing to try and get this. Now, so far, especially in my Pentecostal, and I'm thinking in other denominations also, is the feeling that let me say it is the ex-gay narrative that is with everyone. The fact that, and I those that I've talked with, I've had someone tell me, have you listened to this story? Have you heard, have you heard this person's story? They were lesbians, and then they got born again, and then they got married. See how beautiful their families are. And you'll also hear someone say, I used to do this in high school. I repented, and God has saved me this far. So that is what people are hearing. But I can tell you the truth also that the main, and I think that is where I think I come in. Now that the Lord never, or this far, has not chosen to take away my same-sex attractions, which I really prayed for him to do that as I grew up. I mean, but I wanted to share this testimony. This is that I used to pray to God, take these feelings away, and I'll share this testimony for the salvation of many. And I waited for that to come.
That's interesting. May I interject and ask? Grant, did you ever pray for that? Because for me, I would say no. I don't think I've ever asked the Lord to take away my same-sex attraction.
I absolutely did. Yes.
Really? Huh. Okay, that's interesting because I run into that more and more. I talk to people, but I never have. I was just like, okay.
Yeah, like
how did you
escape that?
It's just, I know, mind you, sometimes whenever we talk specifically in the evangelical culture here, it's like, I never ran across this, I for sure ran across the ex-gay movement and whatnot, but it was always just like, oh, this is part of my life experience, and it just is. I never was like, Lord, make me straight or make me like woman. I never, my brain has, because for me, first of all, the thought of liking women just seems so repulsive to me, but that's another conversation in that way. But
I'm going to be the voice of God in this moment, in this episode, and just say Andrew Marin in his book, Us versus Us, said that 96% of LGBT people pray for their attractions to be taken away the moment that they realize that they're queer.
Wow.
This just means Henry is that much more unique.
I've never thought about it.
And
now I leave as the voice of God.
Come on, Josh Proctor. Come on, producer. Yes. But I have never, when Steve said that, that just flashed onto me. I was like, that's interesting. I have never, not once in my gay Christian life, thought oh, I could ask the Lord to make me attracted to women. I was like, okay, because for me, I was like, okay, I like men. There's nothing wrong with me for liking men. So I never asked the Lord to change that. That's interesting.
in fact, for me, it was not even prayer to like women. I think my prayer was to, there are these attractions, there are these, especially the sexual attractions, are the ones where I was like, God, no, now you take this away. Mine was not really like, Lord, I need to start going after these women. No, just couldn't take this away. I didn't know now after you have taken this away what else I should feel. But I knew, I knew that. And I can tell you, when I was between my class, I mean, age 11, 12, 13, I can't say I was
I just thought about this. Grant, because I could hear. It's like if someone heard me saying what I just said now, you see these side B folks, they don't want their attractions taken away. They want, I could just hear a critic. I just heard that in my, like.
I was trying to silence my inner critic. But yes, I heard that too.
Yes, and I was like, damn it, because that's not what I mean. But anyways, yeah. So, okay. Yeah. I was like, I just dawned on me. I was like, that's what someone could take away from me saying that. But yeah, these side B folks are happy with their homosexual lives and whatnot in this world. So.
But there are some good things about our attractions.
Redeeming queer culture. Come on, Grant Hartley. Yes.
I agree, Steve. I very much agree.
Grant,
so as much as we look at the whole thing, I think it's okay. I mean, because I'm telling you, when I was in my 12, 13 years, I wasn't praying for anything because so far my attractions were very innocent. I just knew that boys look good and that I tend to like them a lot, and I enjoyed friendships. I found myself being hurt at home.
Same, yes. I remember those days. Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. So I don't mind going back to my 14-year-old and just being there. So as you say, there's some that are really not worth taking away because we need them. The world needs them. As much as we also agree that there is also some that God needs to work on to redeem.
Yes.
There's some that needs to die. There's some that needs to be redefined.
That's so good, Steve.
So so that's critically you can let them know that.
Redeeming queer culture. I love it. Come on. I love it.
Thank you, Grant, by the way, for that. I have listened to both of them, and at first I was like,
that's the experience of a lot of people.
But I have listened to them and receiving everything.
But anyway, you were saying, Steve.
So
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I don't know
you
where
said
I was
like,
at, but I was like, at the
God. If you change my attractions, I will share this testimony and I will glorify you with it. And what did he say?
Testimony. Yes.
Okay. You know you're about to get a good story when somebody. You're about to get a good story when somebody did what Steve just did. You know you're about to get a good story, bitch. I'm tuning in. Okay.
Okay. What did the Lord say? The Lord said that my grace is sufficient and my power is made manifest in your weakness. And that has been it so far. So I have been speaking about God's grace a lot. I grew up in a church. I haven't been out of the religious or out of the. I don't have a testimony of I used to be a drunkard. I used to be this and this. In some way, I never understood God's grace much. So that in some way, I have understood God's grace. I have seen His power being manifested in what I would call, in quotes, a weakness. And so that's what the Lord said, and that has been my testimony ever since I understood that. God is at work in me. God is at work in this season. That's why even when I talk about sexuality, at the first and at the end, not even at the first, my whole talk is often, my desire is that it will be have so much of God. that if anyone is to pick anything there, it's not you need to do this, you need to be this, you need to do this and this. My testimony is that there is a God who has our story, who understands your story and where you are at. And there is a God who is taking you somewhere. So can we all get into this ship and trust in this captain, trust in this maker of this ship, to allow the ship to be stewarded towards.
I love what you're saying, because it makes me think of Matthew 5:5, blessed are the meek, for they'll inherit the kingdom. And Jennifer Knapp, queer icon, queer Christian culture over here, she has a lyric, she's a side A lady now, but she has this lyric in one of her songs, which is one of my favorite songs. I'm not afraid, because knowing in meekness I have a kingdom to gain. Steve, as I'm hearing you talk, as I'm seeing you, you have this joy still for the Lord that I texted Josh about probably 20 minutes ago, and I was like, this man still has so much joy, it's unreal to me, because I'd be like, F all these people. But you have that joy, and you have this meekness and this hunger for the Lord and his people, and then the fact that you still want to minister alongside these people who have said or done things that have been hurtful to you. That's just so encouraging to see and hear, because like it's reminding me, like, man, maybe I need to be more patient with other believers and whatnot who want to have this conversation about same-sex attraction, because honestly, I really do see the joy and the meekness you have in you. And like, I mean, the Lord says, humility, clothe yourself in righteousness, humility, and it looks good on you, Steve. I'm telling you, it is a joy to see, and I see it coming from you to where it's challenging me, like right now in this very conversation. I'm like, damn. Oh, yeah, so thank you so much. I was like, I had to pull up my Bible. I was like, you know what, Matthew 5.
Y'all are quoting so much Bible. It's every other sentence with y'all, isn't it?
Y'all know me, okay? I was going to be the word of the Lord. His name's going to be on my lips, y'all. His words are going to be on my lips. But, yeah, no, I'm so cool, encouraged by it.
Yeah. So maybe to conclude this, in the sense of where this started, the culture is basically the culture of you are this and you can be this. That's the culture that is there. Even at the moment, much pressure from my people who love me and are Christians. I think the only problem they have with me is that I don't talk a lot about marriage. I don't talk a lot about that girl that I'm pursuing. That's the issue they have with me, because the feeling, isn't you receiving Christ mean, and even with this attraction, does it not mean you pursuing this? So the feeling is that it's better. And I can tell you, the church that invited the person, it was easier for them to invite that person, because that's what is easy to sell to people. That is what is there. And people are convinced there must be a cause for this. And that cause can be rectified. And you see where all that leads to people. But now, especially as I continue writing and continue talking with this person here and there, I also sense that there are people who have been there and who know that this is not really true. In the way of this old narrative is not a whole in itself. That there needs to be more. They want to hear more. I think that's why some people will be okay to tell me, Steve, I have had this for a while. I have experienced this for a while. And that's why, for me, why I believe the side B geological way of thinking is the most scriptural way of thinking about this thing. I feel it is because I see it in the scripture. I see a people that are in need of God, but I see a people that are not limited. I see people who are flourishing even where they are at. And so, if you are willing to reject prosperity gospel teaching because it has done damages to people, because I mean, like our country at the moment, thankfully everyone knows that prosperity gospel isn't it, because it's also damaged lives here. So if you believe in that, then I don't see why we don't. I mean, we need to also accept that this other prosperity, prosperity way of teaching this, why it not need to be rejected. So I think some of us, especially who experience the attractions, know it's not it, and it just promises. It's not what the hope being that you can anchor yourself on. So I long for before, because people are so much talking about sexuality now. My prayer, and maybe you can pray with me about this, is to ensure that before any other narrative, because the truth is, ministries, now that we are ripe with this, many ministries will come up. And when I hear youth people talk about Exodus and stuff, I'm sure many others will come in like that. My hope is that we can have such a strong voice on what, I mean, I'm not sure if a Kenyan person will listen to this episode, but those who are listening know the side B theology. But I mean, it can be such out there, so that anyone ever, like, it's already in the, like, we can shape. My prayer is to shape my Kenyan culture with this narrative so much, such that when that young boy realizes the experience this, they'll be given a hope that is not a prosperity gospel hope. That parent will know how to respond to that child. That pastor will know how to preach this topic about this and that. That person who is married and continue experiencing this will know, I don't have to be promiscuous or to so much hide this from my wife, or I don't need to. I love family. I mean, if I go into marriage, or if that other person goes into marriage, they know they're not going to marry. But I have a friend of mine who just trying to think if anyone can if I say this, if I betray my friend. But in one of my friends will be wedding not long from now, in the experience same-sex attractions. And we have talked about this so much that they know they're not going into marriage to cure this. They know they love the girl. They don't love every other girl out there. They know they love to raise a family, and they are willing to do this. And I'm longing to see people going to marry with that understanding, so that whatever comes in there, whatever struggle that comes in there, people don't have to leave God or leave their families and stuff. So where we are at, people are talking. There's a narrative which is kind of already there. My hope is that we can feel. That's why when I saw the church talk about same-sex attractions and homosexuality, it's like, this is a good start. This church is big, and so when people can hear there's a pastor somewhere who is married, 7 years into marriage, and he says his attractions haven't gone away. I'm like, that's alone, the last part encourages a lot, and we can have such more and more. And I don't know, let's see where God is. But my hope is to put this narrative out there, so that before another narrative picks up, we can have this narrative already selling and already influencing. Before I believe, and if I achieve that, then I can go and pastor a church without talking about this. Just be cool with talking about many other things, talking about the kingdom of God, talk about other things maybe. But before then, I don't know if I would be at peace to just leave it. Because I mean, some other day someone told me, Steve, there's so many other things to talk about. Why can't you go talk about them? Because like, don't have to talk about contemporary things, because contemporary things will end one day. I'm like, yeah, contemporary things will end one day, but behind these are people who are here to stay. So how do we ground them and also, push them into the future with a greater hope?
And we are praying that alongside and Stephen with you, and it's so encouraging to hear that that's what you're hoping for and fighting for in the church and the voice. And may Kenya one day, my home country, might one day have a revoice movement of their own, and so a side B movement of their own. And so, yeah.
I long for that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I would hate to grant anything else. I think we need to wrap up here, but like, I'm just so encouraged, like, to continue the friendship with Life on Side B and Steve. So for sure, you'll be coming back as a guest. And like we said last time, if Steve can get here for Revoice in October, we're making it happen. We're going to do that if we can do that. And I mean, like, every time, this is now the third time we've spoken to you, only the second time I listen to it.
Yeah.
But I leave so challenged, encouraged, and inspired every time I hear you speak. And so just thank you for that. You do have a gift, and don't let anyone persuade you from ministry or anything, because you have a gift, you have a voice, you have a passion for the Lord that's undeniable, it's unmatched. And it is an honor to hear you speak and get to know you.
Absolutely.
So, and I hope.
You sound like Paul speaking to Timothy. First Timothy 4. To not let anyone look down upon you.
Okay. Y'all can't say we don't know our Bible, y'all. Y'all can't say we don't know our Bible.
I feel deeply Catholic in this conversation because y'all are quoting the scriptures, and I'm just like, yeah, something like that.
It's a deeply Catholic. Don't shame them, girl.
No, but like, I mean, I gotta own up to it.
Yes. Man, Grant, what did you just think of our time and our conversations with Steve the past 2 times? 3 now for us, but 2 aired. So.
Yeah, I'm so excited that Steve that you get to be the person that people reach out to. I know for me, I had an experience at the first Revoice when I met and I got to talk with Greg. I think I knew him a little bit before then. But having Greg in my life as someone I could look up to who was pursuing ministry and who eventually became really open with his story and has dealt with so much. It was not a role model, but a possibility model. I think that's something Laverne Cox said one time, where she's like,
possibility model.
She's
Love
like,
that.
I don't want to be a role model because that means there's only one role. I want to be a possibility model.
Love that.
And so I've always thought about that quote. I love that quote.
Okay, Steve's writing that down. Steve's writing that down. I love that.
But Greg was a possibility model. I didn't want to be exactly like him, but he showed me what is possible, and I think that's what you are. And there are people who are reaching out to you, and who are looking for someone to help them, and looking for someone who loves Jesus, and is pursuing him faithfully, and is gay, and you're that person. And so I'm just so excited that you are a possibility model for people.
Possibility model.
Which, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited that people are like reaching out to you. You just casually mentioned something and people are like, so tell me everything. Like God is doing something.
And don't you think that like one day I have chills because I believe it. I'm going to say it. It's like I feel like one day we're going to be saying Steve Mwendia, David Bennett, and Wesley Hill, and Greg Johnson all in the same sentence. Like just our possibility models, right? And Greg Coles and this. Steve, I believe that the Lord has that for you. So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been so encouraged.
I'm not sure, but the other day I was thinking on how I've bumped on. I used to have a theology. I studied theology before I met Side B team. And how God, because I used to know there is more behind what I'm hearing, but I didn't know what it was. So how the Lord has led, because I can tell this has never been my, like, it's not because I'm so connected with people, it's not because of how I am this and this. This has been purely God's will. So I know, I pray you will lead others into this. It's such joy to see many people experience the life giving. Because people say theology kills, but also theology gives life. So I love that.
I love that. Thank you so much for the gift of your time and conversation. Absolutely.